Hi, I'm Garnbreak1, and this is Midgardia's cool crowdfunding show. I'm here today with Dove. How's it going?
Oh, good. Thank you. Happy to be here.
So, you're here to tell us about Mammoth Chronicles. So, why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. So Mammoth Chronicles is a 5e Kickstarter that has eight very high quality adventures that come with 131 STL miniatures, paper miniatures, battle maps, magic items, yada yada. And yeah, we playtest everything ourselves. Our sculptor that does the minis used to work for DC Collectibles and Marvel Collectibles, so he knows his stuff and serious about anatomy. He's the kind of person that um, we make up a monster and we give it to him, and then a week later, I tell him, "Oh, can you move that foot here?" And he's like, "No, that bone doesn't work like that." And I'm just like, "We just made it up. What bone? What are you what anatomy?" He's like, "Yeah, he has anatomy like this." And I'm just, what? So he's fantastic, and we're three guys, and so it's Daniel, Nadav, and David, and it spells D&D, which is cute.
That's a handy coincidence.
Yeah, it is. But actually, most people call me Dove, so it's DDD, which is also fine.
So, is this like a sequence of adventures or like a bunch of, one shots?
Yeah, you can either run it as a sequence adventure from level 4 to level 11, or you can play them as just like a library of 8 adventures that you like. Oh, I want the sand adventure. We have Everdune. If we want Void Stalkers, like space stuff. If you want, Infernal Blacksmiths. If you want Eldritch Plane Shifters. If you want like a Radiant Dragon Empire, we got like crazy themes. So you can just have a library that you can plug and play and just fit into any kind of kitchen sink high fantasy setting, or you can run them as like some sort of like a adventure guild kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah, a bunch of adventurers getting sent out on jobs.
Yeah, exactly.
I really like the miniatures that you've got for this. They're very snazzy.
Snazzy. Oh, I don't know what that means.
They're very cool. I like
Oh, okay, cool. That's good. Okay.
yeah. Especially the Void Stalkers ones.
Mm. Yeah, they're a crowd favorite for sure.
So, how did you end up deciding to do like a very miniatures heavy like adventure compilation?
It's a great question. So I used to work at My Mini Factory. For those who don't know My Mini Factory, that's like the Amazon of STLs. And for those of you who don't know what STLs are 3D printable files that you can use for 3D printers, right? And then I used to work there as both as a YouTube collaborator. Um, sorry, I used to work there both as a maybe I'll say again. So I used to work there as a YouTube collaborations manager, like the head of the YouTube collaboration program, and also as a biz dev or um, as they call it now, a designer relations guy. Which means basically I would contact artists and I would help them to make content. And for those who don't know, the kind of STL or miniature rat race, I should call it, of Patreon means you need to every month come up with between 10 or 20, or if you go for the really big guys, they do 50 a month, which is just insane. Um, and they make it hard for all of us little folk, and we're becoming a little bit bigger now, so maybe I shouldn't speak too much. But yeah, it's so I was in that world already helping, maybe I don't know, 60 designers or something. I was working with loads of people, some bigger names, some smaller names, and we it was just kind of a natural transition. I had this other podcast, shout out to myself, GM and DM podcast that has recorded 30 episodes, but only 4 are edited, but they're fantastic. And that was me and the other partner, Daniel, and we did things like, what is a charisma based trap, right? So we would just find ourselves after a session that I was playing in his game or he was playing in my game. We would just sit and talk for hours about like concepts and blah blah blah, and we would just enjoy it. And like everybody in COVID, we were like, let's make a podcast because why not? Because we were bored, and we did. And then that kind of fizzled out, but it kind of started. me and him writing together and that kind of thing, and that just developed into these adventures. And then David, the sculptor, came in, and that became Mammoth Factory, which is the company that makes Mammoth Chronicles, the Kickstarter. Confusing. Both are mammoths. Kind of makes sense, but kind of confusing.
No, no, that's pretty clear.
Hmm,
And like, yeah, a lot of people did start podcasts. I was about a year before that, so I'm good. But
nice.
there's no creative effort that's ever truly wasted.
I agree.
I, so one thing that we should be very clear about is that these are just STL files from the miniatures. They are not 100 was it 151 like physical miniatures.
131.
131.
131. However, we do have anybody who backs us. If you don't have a 3D printer, you can back us as like Roll20 or their PDF, their VTT conversions. Foundry stretch goal is just around the corner, so probably by the time you're seeing this, it's already passed through. And their paper minis here. I have one of them here.
Ooh,
Look at that paper mini.
very nice.
It looks rad, and you can color them in, or they come colored. And we also are giving a discount code. Sorry, I'm just plugging myself, but this is kind of the point, right? We're giving a discount code for this company manufacturing that manufactures our stuff, print on demand. So there will be a discount code for anybody who backs us at any tier that makes our minis.
Ooh, that's
Don't know
very
if you can,
handy.
yeah.
Yeah,
So even if you don't have a 3D printer, you can get the minis.
right on. Yeah, you don't have the production capacity of somebody like the Zombicide guys or something.
I mean, the thing is, making minis on a mass scale, making molds,
Hmm.
no joke, hundreds of thousands of dollars
Yeah,
for if you have that much, because they're expected to sell like tons. But now the 3D printing industry is really changing that, and you can order one of our minis for $5 on our store. That's really reasonable, I believe, for a 32 millimeter mini. Um, that aboleth I just showed you is I don't know, $20 or something like that. That's cheaper than a lot of the bigger companies I'm not going to mention. Uh,
yeah, and there's certain things that you can do with 3D printing that would be really hard with traditional manufacturing, like the aboleth there.
exactly.
That's all one
Abs-
piece. It's not like
yeah,
yeah,
absolutely. That would be nuts on a mold. That's
yeah,
not, yeah. And yeah, so if anybody wants to check, we have. Is that okay that I'm doing these plugs?
yeah. No, absolutely.
Yeah.
That's why you're
Okay.
here.
Cool. Yeah. Right. Right. So there we have already a website. If you don't want the Kickstarter, and you just want, I don't know, that mini or any of our other over 130 now minis, because we come up with 20-25 minis every month. There is a website that you can order them. It's called onlygames.co. It's only dash games. Mammoth Factory, there's probably going to be a link in the doobly-doo or whatever.
Yeah, there'll be a link just down below. Um, so what's the general tone of the adventures? Like, is it high fantasy, kind of comedic, high
Great
adventure?
question.
Yeah.
Great question. So, me and Daniel, the head writer, we co-write together, and he comes from, he is a history masters, and he's British, and he likes his, serious, and he knows his armor, and da da da. And I'm kind of like, I want this story to be accessible and fun and not too dark, and but still epic. And so we find that kind of balance between lore that feels believable, that you can immerse yourself in, that has weight, that has gravitas, and that has light moments. We have real nice NPC cards that you can print out, and they have like their own agendas and their own tone and their own objectives. Um, and yeah, so it feels like we have quite a range. Some adventures are more lighthearted than others. We try to make everything quite modular, so there's real player agency, even though they're short arcs, and there really are short arcs. They're not level 3 to 5; they're one level per arc, so you can do them in 4 or 5 sessions, which I feel like it's just something that doesn't happen as much, and it should, I think. Um, and yeah, and then So the tone is, I would say, is quite serious. It's very well written. Daniel's a fantastic fantasy writer. We have descriptions of all the monsters. We have descript. There are many readouts. They're very beautiful. And me and him, like, we have arguments on, like, what are good words that people will feel comfortable to read out to their players. And sure, there's the American and the British audience that know all these fancy nice words, but there are people like me where English is my second language, actually. Um, and I don't know a lot of these words that he says, and I'm like, they can't be in a readout. I want people that are international to be able to read these readouts out. So we really have this kind of push and pull between, like, really high quality but also accessibility. It's very important to both of us to have both.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've definitely had adventures where like the immersion's kind of broken because I read a word out the wrong way and
Yeah,
that kind of
thank you.
stuff.
Exactly.
And like
Exactly.
that's as a native English speaker who has read an unreasonable amount of like weird fiction.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And it's just you feel awkward, kind of like, oh, I'm reading this epic thing, and what's this word? You mispronounce it, and all your players go like, no, no, it's this. It's just, you're not supposed to do that, right? And also, I feel like, I haven't seen this anywhere. Maybe it exists. I'm sure it exists somewhere, but I haven't seen monster description readouts, which I feel is such a missed opportunity. It's so fantastic to, the encounter starts and you have this epic description of how he rises from the blah whatever, right? It's cool. Anyway, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, no, it's so easy to default to like just telling them what the monster is, and that it kind of sucks because like if they don't know it, that kills it, and if they do know it, it could be way more interesting if they're getting the description of like this big mass of like flailing limbs or whatever.
Should I read that one?
Yeah,
Maybe.
sure, go for it.
Yeah. Okay. Give me 1 second. Um, Okay. So these are draconic ascendants. They are like large dragonborns. They have wings, that kind of thing. Why am I explaining this? I should just read it out. uh, Twice as tall as a grown man, the creature before you is like a dragon in human form. Immense wings extending from its back and rows of sharp teeth glistening in its open mouth. It wears an ornate armored mantle, but clearly relies on its thick scales for protection.
Awesome. Yeah, like I'm terrified of that thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Whereas if you just tell me the name, what was it? Dragon Ascended, you said?
Drakari Ascendant, yeah,
Drakari
which is
Ascendant,
awesome.
yeah.
Yeah,
It's like, yeah, that sounds cool, but like, what should I be scared?
yeah,
Whereas if you read that to me, I'm just like, yeah, no, I don't want to tussle with that, you know?
yeah, exactly.
So, which of these adventures is your favorite?
Oh, that's a really tough one.
I know I said no hardball questions, but
No, no, it's good. It's good. Oh, it's like picking a child. No, it's not true. Half of them I wrote, half of them Daniel wrote. So half of them are definitely. No, I'm joking. I think I have to say that Curse of the Skinwalkers, which is the first initiation adventure, is level 4. They are abomination werewolves. The whole adventure is themed around revenge and forgiveness, and it's quite powerful. It also has a very interesting kind of mechanic where the whole adventure happens in 6 hours, story wise, right? So what happens is that you're in the middle of the woods and you're trying to get somewhere, and it's getting dark, and suddenly you hear howls and you're surrounded by these werewolves, and they attack you and they keep regenerating, and they're terrifying and they're powerful. And suddenly, like, in the distance, a door opens and you have this guy saying like, "Oh, come here," and he's like, "Come here, come here," and you run into this tavern and they lock it behind you, and you hear these scratches on the door, and you're just surrounded by this horde of werewolves that they're breaking the windows, and you're just attacking them through the windows, and they subside and they go away to heal, and an hour later they come and attack again, and they keep attacking every hour because they regenerate so quickly. um, and you're just basically trying to survive the night. But this sounds so far, it sounds kind of like it's cool, but that's the upper layer of the adventure. The adventure is actually really deep. What happens is that spoilers. These werewolves, these skinwalkers, they're fueled by revenge. They are basically um, cursed by this a deity called Koseluth, that cursed a man that him and his wife went dancing in a forbidden forest one day, and so she bore children, and instead of children was a litter of puppies, and he was so scared of the puppies that he ran away and never looked back and became a monk somewhere and kind of devoted his life to being a cleric, but he was so ashamed that he never looked back. And they grew up to be these werewolves, and as they matured, their fuel for revenge, fueled by Kosolith, was like to hunt this guy down. And finally, they found him, and he's in this tavern.
And
But the
you,
players don't know this,
yeah,
right? The players don't know this, and he doesn't even know that they are his children, right? Like he doesn't make the connection, and some people get bitten. So the daughter of the tavern owner, she's already bitten, so she's a little bit controlled by them, kind of, and she's fueled by revenge as well. So she, at some point, she throws the silverware out the window, and there is this poem that kind of hints at what happens, and there are all sorts of like lore and interesting things with NPCs, and basically there are many different ways to finish the adventure. It's actually quite replayable. You can either kill the werewolves or you can give them the guy, but if you give them the guy, then the alpha werewolf, who's like large, he turns into the abomination because his revenge was fulfilled, and he becomes this four monster. Like if you show the image maybe or something, it's a terrifying monster. So if you choose the easy way out of like, we don't care about this guy, here, have him, right? You get, yeah, it's not nice. And then, but there is actually and no a pacifistic route, which is if you find this magic amulet and you manage to make somebody forgive somebody else, and there are a bunch of NPCs there that hate each other, stuck in this tavern, and if you manage to make them forgive each other by roleplay or by whatever, then you can, that amulet literally is powered by forgiveness, anime something, right? But it like it harvests the power of true forgiveness, and that can dispel the whole curse.
nice.
So that's it's just an example of one of our adventures. Yeah.
That sounds pretty cool. Like it's certainly it's not the average, go into the tavern basement and beat the heck out of some rats, you know?
No, it's not that. No. Yeah, we try. We really, we're nerds. We like stories, and he's a fantastic DM. I'm a critical role baby. I started, campaign one. So he's like an OG guy that did like dungeon crawls and likes all the XP and gold and I like more like story and epic, and I also studied storytelling. So together we make a very good team.
Yeah, absolutely. It sounds like a great set of talents that really complement each other.
Mm.
So, are there any other elements that you'd like to highlight while we're here that we haven't touched on yet?
Other elements. Well, we work with three fantastic map makers. Shout out to Elysium Cartography, Meditating Monkey, and Go Adventure Maps. We use different maps. Some of them are custom made, some of them are not. Um, um, the Roll20 conversions are fantastic. They have dynamic lighting and all that stuff. That's always really nice. Uh, and shout out to Roll20 because they've been super kind to us in this campaign. What else? Yeah, no, it's that's kind of it, I think.
Nice. And like, yeah, the Roll20 and PDF tier is only 40 US dollars, which is not bad for the amount of content that you're getting here.
Yeah, for fully fledged converted adventures, it's actually yeah, it's I don't think there's anybody else who can. Those adventures cost $12 on Roll20 each. So Roll20, I don't know if I'm allowed to say this, but they gave us the opportunity to give a bigger discount than they usually allow. They kind of made an experiment with us. So yeah, if you want a good value, this is definitely the way to do it.
And like, honestly, $12 for like what, 4 sessions of adventure? That's not bad. even
No, four,
normally.
no,
Like,
four. I would say most groups will probably run it in like 4 to 8. Like four is like if you like things snappy, right?
yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, no. This looks really cool, and even if you're not into 3D printing miniatures, like there's still a bunch of excellent adventures here and some really cool art. Uh, yeah. So if you're still watching this, there's a link below. Go click that. You should have it open in another tab or something by this point.
Yes.
Well, Dove, it's been great having you on,
Thank you very much.
and
Pleasure to be here.
yeah, have a good night, everybody.